Now we have item 10, the Auckland Water Strategy Forward Work Programme. Toby, Ali and Megan, thank you very much.
Kia ora koutou, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, with me I have Toby and Ali, who you all know. This is a report coming back to you from the last meeting and the number of workshops we've held with the governing body over the past few months, particularly around the supply and demand work. So look, this is a scope for the water strategy work. It's being led by my team and I from the CPO. This is a long-term strategy which will have implications on our investment long-term and our actions. We are holding the pen, and it builds on the work, as I've said, that we've been doing with you through the workshops on supply and demand. It also feeds through into a lot of other work that you'll be aware of, national policy statements around freshwater management, our too much water policy that you will have seen CAT do. So there's a number of areas in this, a number of pieces of work in this area that is going on, particularly coming from central government, and so it will tie all of those things together. It will be directive. It will have targets, it will have issues, outcomes and measures, and we will need to monitor and evaluate that. It will be based on evidence and data, and that is what you've asked for, and that is what we're doing. You'll also see that we propose a multi-stage approach, which allows us to come to you at various times during the process and with our mana whenua partners and others, as opposed to just coming once towards the end to see what you think of the whole product. So it just allows us to get your direction and your thoughts through the process. And like with the supply and demand work, we will be working very closely with departments and staff across the group, so council and its CCOs, because water does touch so much of what we do. Mr. Chair, we want to leave it there. You have the recommendations before you. You'll see that in terms of mana whenua engagement, that is a huge part of how this will progress. Because we were unable to go to Hui last month, because that was cancelled for a number of reasons, we will be going to that mana whenua kaitaki forum next week. So you'll see that the resolutions reflect that, and that we will update both you and the Deputy Chair, but also the committee as to how that may change the process. But we'll work with the forum and the IMSB around that. Thank you, Mr. Chair. We're happy to take questions.
Thank you very much. Councillor Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Look, if no one's moved or seconded, I'm happy to do one or the other. Yeah. But I do want to ask some questions around the financial implications, because I think that's really important in the setting of expectation around this. I'm very supportive of it, but I'm also very mindful that you create an expectation and then I just don't want to be the big bad wolf. So the first thing is around the paper itself, and I just want to confirm that that's actually staff time you're talking about, which I must admit will be obviously considerable, but there is no cost to that. And then, thank you, and then the second point around that is, so yeah, then how does this play out then relative to the financial decisions or that will go parallel to that as part of the LTP process?
I'll start, and you guys can leap in if you need to. In terms of this LTP process you're going through, that was really the purpose of doing that supply and demand work in particular, doing it early, and that would have an implication then on, say, the asset management plans, whether it's for healthy waters or water care in particular. So you will be seeing that and hearing that through this long-term plan process. We don't necessarily think there will be a lot of other things that this strategy will impact on for this LTP, but it will then in future annual plans, and let's say the next long-term plan in 3 years' time. It's really that supply and demand in particular for this LTP. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Walker.
If I can just pick up on the last point, I would make the suggestion that it will impact on the LTP, and it will impact positively. Because if you actually make better use of water and you conserve, you actually save money. So if we put up some business cases for this, I'm sure that akin to other cities, they will be positive. So that goes some way to addressing the issue that Councillor Simpson raised. I think there are significant savings that we can make, both in terms of Auckland Council directly, but also the city. So if I just speak to a couple of things.
We're just on questions at the moment.
Well, I was just going to jump to
Yep, so are there any...
A suggestion, save time.
Yep, so we can come back to Councillor Walker. We've got Member Wilson and then Member Wilcox.
I can phrase it as a question. Your choice.
Mine is clarity that I'm just seeking at this stage. So well done in terms of the next steps, including the Kaitiaki Forum. And verbally, I didn't hear Megan also including the individual iwi chairs. So I'm just ensuring that that's also
Absolutely
the plan
right.
as
Correct.
written.
My apology.
Member Wilcox.
This is an Auckland strategy, isn't it? It's not just downtown Victoria Park or something.
No, whole of Auckland.
So we're talking about Tāporapora as well as Waiuku. Thank you.
Kia ora. Councillor Cooper.
Just in terms of working with the CCO and Healthy Waters, of course, just finding the program, what sort of conversations or work have you been doing with Watercare and Healthy Waters alongside? Are we just evolving our policy before we talk to them? I'm sure we're not.
Through the Chair, thank you for that question, Councillor Cooper. So as you know, I suppose the first bit of work that we've been doing before bringing this forward work program paper to this committee is an element of the supply and demand work stream. So we've got those 6 work streams, one of them is supply and demand, and there's an element of that that's largely been focused on demand for potable water and strategies to reduce demand, think about supply, and think through an element of non-potable use as well. So that work's been largely undertaken between our team and Watercares, and there's some work underway as well in the healthy water space. And then as we progress those work streams and think about an evidence base to drive the targets and approaches that we want to develop and bring through to the committee via those workshops, and then each of those meetings in the new year, we'll be working across the council group to make sure that that evidence base is well-founded, well-integrated, and what you see is a council story for a council strategy.
Following the CCO review recommendation.
Yes,
Thank you.
very much so.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Any more questions? Councillor Darby.
One of the things that sort of brought the water discussion, from what was it last year, sort of unstuck was something we found out about pretty late, which was there wasn't a real honesty between different parts of the water organisation, and there was information that wasn't conveyed when it should have been conveyed, access to data, etc. So I guess the curly question right now, Megan and others, is are we confident that the channels are now fully open and that all parts of the wider organisation are opening their book on data to inform these various stages of work? Because it just seemed a pretty fundamental gap, and I probably want to know if we're going into this with a lot of hope that we're going to deliver a strategy this time as opposed to a talking event, that we can be confident that when we get to the end and we ask this question, did you get all the data, all the information that you required to inform the strategy that you are now presenting to us to confirm? So have we got those channels open? Is everybody, including the strategy team, the Healthy Waters team, the Watercare team, and whoever else, are the channels open?
Through the chair, the channels are open, but I do think there is still work to do on that. But I am confident that it will entirely open, and we will get a strategy at the end of this, which will be useful and will direct investment and enable you to make the decisions you need to make. It is a complicated area, as you're aware, and I'm not going to sit here and say that everybody knows everything, but we will get there.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Councillor Darby. Any more questions before we go back to Wayne for speaking? No? Okay, so closing off questions. Wayne, this is your speaking turn.
I had a question. Deal with it first, and essentially it follows on directly from Chris's question. And I'm looking at page 65, which covers off scope. And the question I'd ask by way of a suggestion is, can governance be expanded to include integration, which covers off Councillor Darby's issue, and best practice? Because those things are fundamental. We might think that they're implicit in governance, but they're not. So governance, integration, and best practice.
Through the chair on that. Absolutely. I think if you look at page 73, where we're talking about the issues for discussion direction in the strategy, our intention would be that those issues would be covered. We talk about the roles and responsibilities across the council group. Integration is a key part of that. So looking at the water space, the water system, how it works. So absolutely. And best practice across all areas, I think, actually.
Great stuff. And the other question is just to follow on one around best practice. So if we were to look, for example, at the water-sensitive cities network around the planet, that arguably we should join. Many other cities are, and we could tie in Auckland University in with that. We could just leapfrog so much stuff because it's all there. It's all there, and certainly the strategies that cities like Melbourne have got are already there. They're populated with examples, case studies, costings, implementation plans. So I guess my suggestion by way of a question is, can we just take that stuff on, and following on from that, can we circulate some material to councillors and the like so that they're up with it? Because it's really good stuff. I mean, I've visited the Water Sensitive Cities unit in Monash University, for example. Fantastic team. They would just open their arms and embrace us and assist us if we were to join with them.
Thank you, Councillor Walker. Does anyone else want to speak on? Yes, Councillor Darby.
I probably just want to take this short speaking turn to reiterate the point that I was making in the question. Is we had a workshop recently, and that's in confidential, so I won't identify who it was, but I did ask this question of another part of this organisation, not the strategy unit, it was another part, about the working together with the Court Council. And the answer was, well, Councillor Darby, yes, there is probably room for improvement. I've heard that reply when I've posed that question on other occasions over the last 6-9 months, repeatedly. It appears there's always room for improvement. We need to close the gap right now on the room for improvement. And so I really do emphasise that there are some barriers that need to be broken down here. There's some old behaviours and cultures that need to be turned on their head in the water space. Otherwise, we are not going to get the strategy that we expect, because we will find out later that there are information gaps and people have not contributed honestly. Now, I'm speaking there to our wider organisation, not the political arm. I'm talking to the management arm here, that this has to change. This is not healthy for Auckland.
Thank you, Councillor Darby.
Look, I can't help but follow that and say, if there's ever a time for Team Auckland to do the very best that it can do, this is a perfect opportunity for you to do that. You know, we've started this politically with the local boards, but this is everybody, isn't it? Mana whenua, CCOs, local boards, everybody. And it's up to you to lead the way, take the cudgel, take the baton, and do a great job, and I'm sure you will. Thank you.
Kia ora. And I'll just close up the conversation. Thank you very much. Officers, amazing work done so far, and I know there's a heap more work to do, and thank you for keeping everyone together on this, and I think, as you've heard quite clearly from around the table, that we want everyone even closer together and having those same goals, priorities, and obviously funding and everything else that comes with that. So this, might not seem like it, but it is one of the most important strategies and pathways that this council has to have, and we've seen that over the last year around our water space, how much we need to be aligned and also be telling that story to the public. So thank you very much. We've got Councillor Simpson who moved, Councillor Walker who seconded. All those in favour? Aye. Anyone against? No? Thank you. And we'll move quickly to item
Thank you.
Item 11. Just the one change we made to the resolutions in the agenda was to add the deputy and an IMSB member to sign off any minor changes. It doesn't, IMSB decides, yeah. Oh. So, I'll second. Cool, so, okay, everyone, can we just chill? Bri and Sarah, thank you very much for all the work you've done on this. Is there anything you want to add at this stage?
Kia ora, Chair, Deputy Chair and members of the committee. I was going to come back with a follow-up to the comments from Member Hanley, but for time, I don't know whether I could just circulate that via email, or would you like to, and then...
I think we'd like to hear that, if you've got
you would
some
like to hear?
answer. Yes.
No. So...
we can go through your presentation if that's okay.
I was going to pass on to Briar. Briar was
Okay.
going to speak to the submission and the presentation, and I was just going to preface that with a response and just some information
Cool.
for members around the milk bottles.
Yeah,
that I
thank
thought
you,
might be
Sarah.
of interest. So, as I say, we thank Member Handley for bringing this to the attention of the committee. It's just to let you know that Council has been working closely with Fonterra around their packaging issues as they develop alternative packaging that can be more easily recycled and particularly recycled on shore. 2 points in particular that I'd like to bring to the attention of the committee. First, in relation to the light-proof bottles, so those are those opaque bottles, Waste Solutions has been working together both with Fonterra and with Visi to create a solution whereby these bottles can be separated at the Visi plant, and we'll be releasing more details about this very, very soon. So, and then secondly, in terms of the particular issue that raised by Member Handley, members may be aware that Fonterra announced at the beginning of October that it's moving some of its range from the conventional fossil-based plastic to non-biodegradable high-density polyethylene, so bio-HPDE. It's a recyclable plant-based plastic made from ethanol that's derived from sugar cane. It can be recycled and repurposed in the same way as any other natural HPD bottle. It's already available in the North Island in the Anchor's 2 litre blue range in some retail outlets. It's an advert for Fonterra, it's just bringing up-to-date facts. And in the submission, we have actually covered light-proof bottles in broad terms by supporting the mandatory phase-out of further hard-to-recycle plastics beyond those in the consultation document. So Brian can highlight specific paragraphs if members would find that useful, but otherwise I'll hand over to Brian.
Thank you very much. That's very helpful. Cool. Thank you, Briar, for got the presentation.
Kia ora. You have actually seen the presentation before because we have been to committee on this item before. The timelines then changed and we promised we would bring it back to you for further consideration, so here we are. If the slides appear, I'll talk through them. Or I can just talk. Shall I just talk? Will that be quicker? I'll just talk.
We have seen them before, but we'll put them up in there. Yeah.
Great, okay, sweet. So, without seeing the order the slides are in, I believe it probably starts with the Auckland Council position. So as you all know, the consultation is looking at a phase out of hard-to-recycle plastics and single-use plastic items. The Auckland Council position remains after consultation with the Disability Advisory Panel, the local boards and internal stakeholders to support a mandatory phase out in legislation of hard to recycle plastics, so that's PVC and polystyrene, and a list of single-use plastic items. The main changes are that we want to take plastic straws off the list of single-use items that we would support a mandatory phase out of, and we want to add plastic containing flushable wet wipes and add single-use plastic lined coffee cups to that list. There are also some changes in terms of the strategies that we refer to in the document. So the original document lacked reference to the issues of Māori significance. That has now been added to the submission. And we are also working on some points around equity that will be signed off by the Chair, Deputy Chair and IMSB rep the 24th of November, hopefully. I can take questions.
Cool, thank you so much. Are there questions of the officers? Councillor Cooper.
Around I know I said something about the plastic straws before. So with your conversations with the people with disabilities community, why are you now saying take that off the list when there are paper straws and other straws that you can use, metal straws, bamboo straws? You did just say you were going to take that off the list.
Yes, we are taking single-use plastic straws off the list. The reason for that is that in conversation with the Disability Advisory Panel, it's been determined that the alternatives that are currently available are not sufficient for all members of the disability community. So for metal or bamboo straws, the rigidity is an issue, and that can cause risk for people with mobility or disorders that affect control. And then reusable types that are silicone or other sorts of flexible reusable straws are difficult to sterilise and clean. So for people who are additionally vulnerable to infection, they're a hygiene risk. So right now there's no alternative that is approved by the disability community for use by the disability community. Therefore, they would like us to refrain from supporting a phase out of plastic straws until there is an approved item available.
Okay, thank you.
Which we have noted in the submission.
Thank you. Councillor Cooper, do you have any more questions? Or?
I'm just seeing if you
sorry.
can get, because I don't know, sorry, it's all right. I know that I've used paper concertina straws before, so I just don't, unless people stopped making them, but, because that's what we should be supporting if that is available here. That's my view. If they can be purchased in New Zealand, paper bendy straws, then we should be supporting taking out plastic straws. But I'm just gonna Google it.
Through the chair, I can respond. They are available, but the issue with paper straws in specific is that for people with disabilities that might require a longer time to consume a beverage, the plastic straws go sodden and liquid stops being able to come up through it with the force that's available. So the options were very closely considered.
I guess that, though, having been a nurse and understanding infection control, if it's sitting around for that long, it should be swapped out anyway. So anyway, that's just, I think we're giving way too easily on that. I actually think if it's available, you just put another one in if that happens, because it's, something like a straw is so easily swallowable by our marine mammals. It's not a big item, it can just go in, and it's really damaging and sharp, and that's my concern. Anyway.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Cooper. Definitely take the position on that, but I guess Councillor, Member Wilcox.
Sorry, what was that?
We're putting wet wipes in now.
Yes. Oh, yes. Plastic containing flushable wet wipes. So the types that are marketed to be flushed down the toilet, we've asked to be added to the list of phase-out items. Yes.
Yeah. So, if you remember when we did the submission, I said, so what about the tea bags? What's the difference? The reason is, I've got no issue with plastic wet wipes because there are environmental solutions to that. There's the paper ones and all the rest, but I've got to say, when you're wiping the baby down, the wet wipe is the one. So, You know, so I got to say, you know, I mean, I'm all for us writing them off, but are there alternatives? Or do you just have to use the rag or the toilet paper soaked up?
Through the chair, we believe there are reasonable alternatives. I would draw attention to the fact that we are only requesting a phase out of items that are marketed as flushable, so the ones that are sold as being able to be flushed down the toilet, so ones that have proper disposal guidance on the packaging will not be subject to the phase out. In terms of tea bags, it's not intended to be an exhaustive list, so this is the first list of items that will be phased out under this regulation, but we have said in our submission that we would like to continue to see that list grow. These are the sort of, I guess, lowest hanging fruits and biggest problems. So for wet wipes, they're a huge blockage for our water systems in Auckland, whereas tea bags pose less of a volume risk at this point in time.
Okay, well, straws do actually pose a volume risk. I've been down to the oxidation ponds and seen all the straws and plastic earwigs, plastic ear things floating on the top. So, no, I'm not. I'm hearing what you're saying about the disability. But if Linda said there are alternatives, well, I'm just wondering why we're not advocating for those in a way that the disability community can use. Because all they said, from my gathering, is what they said was that there was no suitable alternative, or they had not discussed a suitable alternative. Is that right? Because if they haven't discussed it, means that there may be, but they don't know about them. But Linda's just suggested one straight away.
Through the chair, it is absolutely not that they haven't discussed. There is expert guidance that they've given us, so the options have been closely considered, and we're taking the guidance from the Disability Advisory Panel, from their lived expertise on the topic. But they've definitely considered all the options that are currently available in Aotearoa.
Thank you. Councillor Bartley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As the liaison councillor for the Disability Advisory Panel, can I just say thank you for taking on board their comments and their perspective. They did debate it for a significant amount of time in their panel meetings, so they did look at the different options. So thank you for that. I also wanted to know not just our submission, but we're still carrying on our work in council about banning plastic bags and things like that, noting that I'm pretty sure it was my local board that started it off with the ban the plastic bag campaign, I think. I'm pretty sure it was, yeah.
Through the chair, yes, internal work continues, so this is just one small part of it, and we do have dedicated resource in Waste Solutions and other parts of council who look at reducing internal council and operational waste as well. And obviously plastic bags have now been banned in Aotearoa, so congratulations to your board.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Darby, last question on this.
Yeah, Chair, I'm just trying to find a way forward on the plastic straws question. I'm wondering if it's just the wording and how it is framed, because I tend to, you know, I have some sympathy for Councillor Cooper's point. You know, I look at the beachfront and you see those little the little straws out of those small Tetra packs, and they are just everywhere. So I'm just wondering, and I hear the disability panel's caveat, I'm just wondering if it's, rather than an exclusion, it's an inclusion when the technology and design of some kind of waxed straw comes into being. It's just about the words. So to include it rather than exclude it, and then you put a qualifier on the inclusion.
Through the chair, if you look at points 92 and 93 in the submission, you will find a note around including plastic straws in the ban when an alternative that is made available, and requesting funding for developing those alternatives.
Okay, that's okay, because on your presentation that's different.
Yeah, so you take it out.
Yeah.
Through the chair, we are taking out of the current list in this consultation, so it's not on it's excluded from the first 7 items that would be banned, which I've alluded to as not an exhaustive list. So as we develop alternatives, that list could grow, and we would expect plastic straws to be included at a time when there are reasonable alternatives available.
Okay, that's good. And just a question, why are there stickers on just about every apple, pear I eat these days? What is on that sticker other than the name? Is there some kind of code?
Batch number, I think.
Is it got a little microchip taking a photo of me biting the apple or something?
Through the chair, I believe they are country of origin stickers generally, but they are included in this consultation.
Me,
and-
I'm a New Zealander, yeah.
of the fruit.
Brandy, not a fruit. Brandy.
But they are included in the consultation and we have supported their ban.
Thank you. Last question from Councillor.
Well, actually, I can respond to Councillor Darby because I was involved when we first had to put stickers on, and it was actually so that we could make sure that the apples, at that time I was doing oranges, that the oranges could be traced in case of an issue with a health issue. So that's why we started putting the stickers on. They used to be paper, you're right, they used to be paper, but then they became plastic. I didn't realise that until I'd eaten a few and realised, oh, hello, what's this?
Thank you. Yeah, it's moved in second. Thank you very much. There's a lot of work gone into that submission, so thank you very, very much. So I think we've still got a forum. So we've got item 12, summary of information.
Item 11, you haven't completed yet?
Oh, we didn't. Yeah, we did.
You didn't
Oh,
move second.
sorry.
All those in
We need to vote on item 11. All those in favour? Those against? Perfect. Item 12, we have Kathy Casey and Councillor Walker. All those in favour? Anyone opposed? And that's all, folks. Thank you very, very, very much. Jags! Oh, just everyone.